Sheba.
Yeah.
Is Sheba socializing or something?
So can I just let him go, please? He just wants to say it. He's my first dog ever, and everything that I read about Sheba said, socialize him early on with other people and other dogs and everything. Mm-hmm. So I did. He's great with people. He loves people, all people. And he used to go to doggy daycare, since he was like 4 months old. Mm-hmm. And then we used to go to the dog park, everything. I took him with me everywhere. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know, around when he turned 1, I personally think something happened at daycare. Mm-hmm. Because we went to the dog park like the day after he was in daycare, and just like we would always do. And the welcoming committee of dogs came, and he freaked out. And that was the first time I'd ever experienced that. And I called the daycare, and I was like, did something happen that I don't know about? Because they didn't have cameras or anything either. And they swore up and down, nothing happened. But ever since that day, it's like it changed overnight. He doesn't like dogs that he does not know in his personal space for too long. And he's gotten a little intolerant with puppies because they're like in your face. Once he knows the dog, he's fine. We got a trainer, it wasn't last year, it was like the year before, December of 19. And we've been doing, okay, like I have him on the leash, okay, sniff the dog, here's a treat. Sniff the dog, here's a treat. And we do that for like the first 3 greetings or so, but this past year, everyone and their mother's been getting new dogs, and it's just been exhausting, and he's getting fat from all the treats.
I was gonna say, he's a little chunky.
So, but and it's not every single dog either, and that's what makes it tough. It's not every puppy, it's not every dog, it's hit or miss. So that's the story of Fred. And that's why we're here.
It's possible that something happened at daycare, but I don't think anything happened at your daycare. There's 2 times in a dog's life where there's pivotal psychological shifts, 6 months in a year. Okay, so the dog you have today isn't necessarily the dog you have tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And especially like with, how old is he now?
He'll be 4 in November.
Sure, and things can change at any point in a dog's life, but the most common ones are 6 months in a year. Whenever I hear anybody's like, my puppy used to love everybody, but then something happened, 6 months in a year is usually around the time frame. So it's either they have a traumatic experience, or they just shift. Mm-hmm. And they decide, it's more common with the bully type breeds, pitties, bull terriers, bulldogs, Frenchies, mm-hmm. stuff like that. Is that 6 months or a year, they just they're cool with the dogs they knew before, but then afterwards they're like, no more new dogs. Mm-hmm. So it could also have been just like that day when he was sworn by the daycare committee or whatever, like that was it, that was the moment. So it could have been that time. Mm-hmm. But it was the first time you noticed it, so then it becomes suspicious to the average dog owner, but it's not uncommon. I hear stuff like that all the time. Okay. So you're wanting one thing of him, and he's saying, I'm not that dog. Okay. And that's where we have conflict, okay? So I can't make dogs social. Mm-hmm. I can help you socialize him correctly, okay. But we can't make him something he doesn't want to be. Right. In his case, he's cool with the dogs he knows. And when in a foreign environment, he's more defensive. In his world, that's technically okay. Mm-hmm. In our world, because of what people are fed on social media and stuff, they're, your dog's supposed to love everyone and everything, and then if your dog has any aggressive responses, like you did something wrong, right. That's not how it works. Like technically what he's doing, yes, you can disagree with it. Okay, I'm not saying that you can't. But he went in there, he was indifferent, he was aloofish, he wasn't known to be minding his business, and it wasn't until dogs came into his personal space that it became a problem. He wasn't actively looking to start a problem. Right. Right? But if he did that to the wrong dog, and that dog reciprocated, yeah. Now he's in a bad situation.
Right, and that's my biggest fear. And like I said, with the dogs that are smaller than him or the same size as him, when he does that, he'll literally pin them to the ground and just, the other day, what was this dog? I don't even know what kind of dog, I don't know, it was smaller than him. but Fred kind of like had its ear, but like didn't have it in like a bite hold type of thing. Like, I mean, it was bleeding a tiny bit, but he didn't like bite a chunk of his ear off. Like he was just like, "Arr!" And of course the dog is like underneath, like screaming its head off, and the owner is freaking out. And I'm like, oh God, Fred, and you know.
Do the dogs keep sniffing him?
The ones that he has gone after like that are then scared of him. And then of course, you know, as we keep seeing, because I only take him, my building has a dog run. So it's always the same dogs really. And so then of course, Fred wants to play with them. And I'm like, dude, you've scared them. Like they don't want anything to do with you.
It's realistic to expect Fred to be social like the dogs that he's known for a long time, or the dogs he would see within the complex's dog run. But then when we start to go to like other dog parks or like dogs on the street and stuff, that's where things get.
Yeah, and I don't take him to a public dog park for that exact reason. I mean, that time in Tampa was literally a win. Like my friend wanted to go with her dog, and when we first got there were no other dogs there. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then others.
How was he with your friend's dog?
Oh, fine.
Okay.
I mean, it's crazy. Like the dogs in Tampa, we're only in Tampa maybe a couple times a year now, and he still loves them. Like he remembers his Tampa friends, and
like that he grew up with. Yeah, no, dogs got a good memory. And then, what are you hoping to achieve with Fred here?
I just wish that he would know, like, hey, can we not tackle the small dogs and like and the puppies, and can we try to be a little more tolerant, or can we just walk away? Can we just walk away from the situation that makes you uncomfortable instead of turning into a statue and then freaking out on them like that?
What makes this complicated is you're putting too much on them. It's like with a kid, right? So a kid, you can tell them, hey, when another kid comes up to you to play with you, don't punch them, don't kick them, don't push them, just ignore them and walk away. And if they continue to follow you to talk to you, go tell an adult. Like you can give that child specific answers on step to step what to do. Can't do that with a dog. Now, can we teach avoidance? Yes. We can't teach them to avoid dogs if he feels uncomfortable. But that's why I asked, well, what do you think is going to happen if they keep pursuing? Because now it's in your court.
Yeah.
So if we teach him to avoid that dog and that dog keeps pursuing him, one of two things is going to happen. He's going to escalate even further because one, he's thinking, hey man, I get corrected when a dog comes into my space.
Right.
So I'm going to avoid you. And then the dog keeps pursuing him and he's like, all right man, I can't avoid you and I don't want to be corrected. So I'm going to just escalate. And then he might even take it even further. Or two, when he avoids the situation and that dog pursues, you now have to step in and correct that dog for him.
Yeah.
And that's what becomes complicated, because then if you try to correct that dog, then the owner's like, wait, what are you doing? And you're like, well, he kept trying to sniff my dog. And they're like, well, he's friendly. It now opens up this host of issues. Because I've been doing this for 10 years. I know how this stuff works. And that's where things get complicated. Okay? And it's just kind of, it is what it is, right? Like, it's a building, there's going to be new dogs, there's going to be new people. There's like no way around that.
I know.
Okay? Aside from the socialization stuff, like what were you trying to, like, is there anything else you're trying to achieve with him, or is that like your primary goal?
That's really it. He's great in every other aspect. As you can see, he's very,
Just aloof.
yeah, he's very calm, and he's great with people, and he's great with kids. He's great on the plane, he's great in public, I mean, when we walk on the leash, he doesn't pull, nothing. Like, he sees another dog, he's like, yeah, okay, it's just the sniffing thing. Honestly, it's a kind of a lost cause.
It's not that it's a lost cause, it's that you just want too much from him. Like, you're wanting the old Fred, right? But unfortunately, like, I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm saying that it's very complicated because he would have to be corrected for performing the behavior. But then who's gonna wanna volunteer their dog for him to tackle and do all that stuff? You know, you're wanting the old Fred, but unfortunately, because he's not a human, we cannot proactively tell him, hey, but these things are not allowed.
Well, and the other thing too, I mean, if your dogs were trained to not like invade the space for that long, he's not going to do that. Did you just snap a picture?
Not a Shiba, man.
It's just a picture. You're fine.
Yeah, no, he's not a lost cause. He's actually what I would just say is a good dog.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that he's not. He has a circle of friends, and he's just closed off that circle now.
Wait, so would you recommend for the dog run, should I just muzzle him?
Yeah, you can mesh muzzle him, but I would condition him. Otherwise, he'll fight the muzzle. Which you can use food for. It just takes time. Some dogs, you can put the muzzle on, no problem. Other dogs might fight a little bit, no problem. Some dogs are like, forget about it.
He doesn't really fight it. He, because I have a muzzle and I've done it a couple times, he just, I think he knows like, oh, I'm in trouble when I have this on. So he's even more like aloof. He's kind of just like, okay, I'm just gonna move around and just kind of, you know, do my own thing. And yeah, he doesn't really paw at it or anything like that. He just, Fred, what are you doing? He just kind of.
Oh, I think I have treats up there. Yeah, if you want to remove the risk of liability, potential liability,
Yeah.
you know the muzzle comes into play. It doesn't help with the behavior itself. It might put him under a bit more stress, just because you're removing his primary source of defense. But
I mean, if the dog too, if I have the muzzle on him, I mean, okay, in your experience, so if I have the muzzle on him, it's still the same dogs because they all live in the building. And I would imagine that once they sniff him a few times, what are you eating? What did you find? I'd imagine that once they sniff him a few times, they're eventually gonna like stop sniffing him for an extended period, right? Because they're gonna be like, oh, I know you.
yeah, maybe within that time frame while he's there,
Yeah.
the next time he sees him, probably just sniff him again. Because they're like, oh, what sense do you have on you that you didn't have on you last time?
Well, alright. I guess I'm not doing everything wrong then. I guess I didn't fail him. I guess it's just him.
No, it's just don't lick out his buddy.
Frederick.
Yeah, no, you didn't fail him. I get people that do things by the book, everything by the book, dog's still screwed up.
Yeah.
But honestly, my advice to you is just like, you don't need to do it.
Let Fred be Fred.
Yeah, let Fred be Fred. What he's doing is, again, he's setting boundaries to dogs. It just looks bad.
Yeah.
You know?
And the sound doesn't help.
No.
When he sounds like a demon, it really doesn't help.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time and the insight, and I mean, yeah, it makes me feel better because, like I said, I'm glad I didn't completely fail him. This was like my last hope.
I'm sorry.
I was like, if this doesn't work, then I don't know what else.
Yeah, no, you didn't screw up. No, that's just Fred. That's just Fred, and your expectations of Fred are greater than what Fred is. You know, not that we could. Again, it just gets really complicated. If it was any obedience type stuff, whatever, we can absolutely help you there. But behaviorally, I'm like, if he's for the most part indifferent and like aloof in the first place,
Yeah.
you know, it's like doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So you're not doing it. He's not sitting there in the room going, man, I didn't get to go to the dog park today. I didn't see your friends.
Right.
He doesn't do that.
Yeah.
That's us.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think you're fine. I think he's a good dog. You know, he's super chill. He's passive. He's a little chonk.